And good morning again. We're going to begin this morning with the wounded Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords. Two of her closest friends in the Congress, New York Senator Kristen Gillibrand is with me here in the studio. Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz is in her home state of Florida. Senator, first, you talked to the family last night. How is the Congresswoman doing?
She's doing great. And, you know, when I was there visiting with her, I was telling her how proud I am of her because she's right now inspiring the nation. She epitomizes everything that President Obama said in his speech about a way of moving forward, of providing leadership that brings people together, not pushes them apart, and focuses on solution. And that's who Gabby is. And right now, through this struggle, which she will overcome, she's showing raw courage, raw strength, something that we can all get behind. And she really is our glimmer of hope in a very dark time. Now,
it's my understanding they have taken her off the ventilator, but she, of course, is still in critical condition. And
yes.
She has not spoken at this
No,
point.
but she can move both sides of her body. She can breathe. She's showing people that she can communicate well by holding our hands and moving her arms and her legs and looking at us. So she's making great progress.
Congresswoman Wasserman Schultz, you actually went out to the hospital yesterday. What's the situation out there?
Well, you know, it was wonderful after Kirsten and I were able to be with her Wednesday when she first opened her eyes to see her again yesterday without the breathing tube and without a lot of the apparatus that had been, on her a few days before that. She continues to make, very good progress, and neurologically, she's in good shape, a little bit better shape every day. Kirsten's absolutely right. This is a woman who has the grit and the will and determination more than anyone that we know, and it's just we were just really overjoyed to be able to be there for our friend and help to urge her on to come back to us, to her family, to her constituents in the 8th District of Arizona.
All right, I'm going to ask both of you.
I was also able to see the staff too, so
I'm going to
really wonderful.
Oh, well, thank you, Congresswoman. I'm going to ask both of you to stand by here. I want to talk about the outlook in Congress, which starts a debate this week on repealing health care legislation. But I want to broaden the discussion, if I can now at this point, beyond Washington and the Beltway. And I want to bring in the man who many people in the hours after 9/11, because of the way he did his job as mayor of New York, he became known as America's mayor. I want to talk to him first, and also to outgoing Pennsylvania Governor Ed Rendell. We want to get his take on where he thinks the country is right now after this awful event. But first to you, Mr. Mayor, and I just kind of feel comfortable calling you that. The country did seem to come together after 9/11, but this time, when this awful thing happened, in the first hours after it, it seemed like it might drive us further apart. Why do you think that was?
Well, it is a very interesting difference. In the first moments after this, there was a rush to judgment on both sides. Left-wingers trying to blame it on right-wing, Tea Party, Sarah Palin, right-wingers trying to fight back and defend themselves against what was really an outrageous charge. But the reality is that settled pretty quickly when we learned the history. And I thought the president's speech put it on a different tone. And I think we have a chance, even though a couple of days later, I think we have a chance to do the same thing that we did after September 11th. It moved me greatly that Christina Green was born on September 11th. And I feel a personal connection to her. Her granddad was a manager of the Mets and the Yankees as well. And this young lady was very taken by the fact that she was born on September 11th. So maybe now we can learn things from it. I think there's a real opportunity to try to have more civil discourse. And although the lack of civil discourse wasn't the cause of this, as some people thought, the benefits we can get from civil discourse will allow us to solve a problem like this, which I believe, if we want to be perfectly logical about it, the problem that helped to cause this is our inability to deal with mental illness and our inability to deal with it as a society. And we always have these problems. We have a set of rights in this country, very important. Then we have a set of problems. How you balance addressing those problems against the rights that we have. We had to make that adjustment, as Ed Rendell knows. He's a big part of it. We had to make that adjustment to make cities safer. And maybe we have to make that adjustment now to deal with mental illness. This man was crying out for someone who needed to be treated. He was being told to be treated. People were saying he was bizarre. People were saying he was frightening. A teacher wouldn't be with him without a guard being there. Gosh, you would think at some point along the way he'd have been evaluated. And it isn't an isolated incident. We could go back and look at lots of incidents like this where people weren't being treated. And Senator Gillibrand's predecessor, Senator Moynihan, is the one who explained this to me a long time ago when I was mayor. He used to say, you know, in the 60s they let everyone out of the insane asylums, he called them. And he said that was a good thing because a lot of them didn't belong there. But there was supposed to be a follow-up, which was treatment in the community, monitoring, medicines. And that follow-up has never taken place. Well, maybe that follow-up is needed now, and that would probably be the most relevant response to this tragedy that almost took the life of a really fine congresswoman who can have a great future and did take some lives, including a very young one.
When you were the mayor, you were pretty strong on control, for example, of handguns. Do you think it is time to re-examine the gun laws? We're not talking about taking people's guns away from them, people who are qualified to have guns, but is there a need to find some way to keep guns out of the hands of people like Mr. Loeffner?
Well, I mean, it would seem to me that you'd address this with the most relevant problem first. The most relevant problem was the lack of an ability to deal with what was apparently paranoid schizophrenia or schizophrenia that should have been treated. Then I would reestablish a situation of civility, which we seem to be doing, so we can talk to each other about gun laws without yelling at each other. We do those first two things, I think we could take a look at gun laws and see what can be done that doesn't affect the constitutional rights that people have to have guns, the right they have to protect themselves. I mean, there are people that would argue that if more people had guns, this may not have happened, because somebody might have been able to take action immediately and stop him before he inflicted either damage or as much damage as he did. We got a very strong debate on guns. We're going to need a level of civility to discuss it that leads to rationality. I think we should also discuss immigration if we could get ourselves to the point of not demonizing each other over it. But I think the critical thing is, let's see if we can act rationally and on point. The most important thing that would have prevented this is if this Loeffner had been identified as what he clearly was. And there's something wrong in a society where we have so many of these situations. We had the Major Nadal, you know, a year and a half ago. Major Nadal, for 3 years in the Army, was indicating a desire to participate in jihad, and we promoted him in the Army. I mean, we're making a big mistake here, not changing our procedures with regard to mental illness and then some form of involuntary appraisal of people who display situations where teachers have to have guards there to protect themselves.
Mr. Mayor, what was your reaction to the way that Sarah Palin reacted to all of this?
My reaction, what Sarah Palin did was somebody who was probably upset and maybe even shaken by the fact that she was not accused of murder, but accused of playing a material role in this incident in a very, very direct way, when in fact the facts and the circumstances show that this had nothing to do with the left or the right, had nothing to do with any map that Sarah Palin had, or this was clearly, and I've dealt with enough murder cases and I've dealt with insanity defenses enough to know that this is one of those that comes out of the strange, weird, bizarre background of this young man. So yeah, she used a wrong word in responding to it, but I can see why she would feel very upset.
Our time is limited. Let me just ask you quickly, are you rethinking, are you thinking about maybe running for president again?
Well, not this morning. I have thought about it in recent weeks, but I haven't thought about it. And my heart goes out to the Congresswoman and her family and all of the people that lost loved ones and the people of Arizona, and particularly the Green family. What a wonderful young girl, and what an irony that she was born on a terrible day for our country and she died on a terrible day for our country.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Mayor, for joining us this morning. I want to go now to Governor Rendell in Philadelphia. Well, Governor, you heard Rudy Giuliani. He said we need to establish a more civil discourse, and then perhaps we can talk about these hot-button topics like guns.
Well, I think that's right. I think the Congress should rededicate itself to not only civil discourse, but to working together and getting things done. There are areas where we can really meet the country's challenges if we put aside electioneering and partisanship, like deficit reduction, like education, No Child Left Behind, like energy. We need an American energy initiative. Those are the things we can get going. And we ought to have a logical discussion about the 2 points that the mayor raised. One, how to get an early detection system where we can get people help, but also get them classified as having mental problems so that they are no longer eligible under the Brady bill to buy firearms. Had this man been classified, had he been committed civilly at any time prior to his purchasing the gun from Walmart, he would have in fact been denied access to that firearm. But then, Bob, I also think we need a rational discussion on guns where we put aside the pressure from interest groups and we take a look and say, does any citizen protecting themselves or their home or using a handgun to hunt, do they need a clip that has 33 bullets in it? And the answer is, of course not. The Congress, I think the nation's spirits would be lifted if the Congress acted quickly with the president and reinstated the assault weapons ban, which also had the ban on these large magazines, these clips that carry 30-plus bullets.
Do you agree with Mr. Giuliani in that the president's speech may have actually changed the debate and the discourse?
Well, we'll see. I hope so. I thought the president sounded all the right themes. I think it was a great speech, and I think he put a lot of care into it and didn't make it political. But we'll see. And really the first test is on health care. Can the debate on health care, where the Republicans have promised to repeal the bill, even though they know that that's a false promise to the people, because the Senate's not going to pass it and the president would veto it, can the Republicans have discourse on that, allow amendments, allow discussion, and maybe come up with 3 or 4 changes rather than a repeal, which never can happen, and bring those 3 or 4 changes to the president and say, Mr. President, will you work with us in trying to modify this? That, to me, is the important thing, not that everybody sits together during the State of the Union. That would be a great symbol for the country, but that's not long-lasting. We need to spend this year addressing the nation's problems, whether it's health care, whether it's education, whether it's energy, whether it's deficit reduction, whether it's gun control. We need to discuss those problems in a rational atmosphere where we don't demonize each other and where we listen,
Governor, this is sort of your valedictory as governor on Sunday television. You leave office on Tuesday. How has the country changed since you came to office? And are you, how do you feel about the state of the nation right now?
Well, I think, first of all, in my 8 years, I've seen the level of partisanship and ideological posturing just increase and increase and increase. And I think it's tearing the fabric of our government apart. And if these lives were lost for a reason, the reason is if we can take something good out of it, this is a wake-up call to all of us that we can't go on to where we're doing. We just simply can't do that. And if that happens, this tragic day will have done some real good. Secondly, I have found that the recession has really hardened people's attitudes. And what's important going forward, if I were to give a message to the American people, is you've got to be able to discern the difference between very important government spending, investment in our physical infrastructure, our intellectual infrastructure, and wasteful government spending. The latter should be eliminated as quickly as possible, and that money should be saved to reduce the deficit. But we can't stop investing in our growth. No business that's successful does that, neither should we.
All right. Governor, thank you so much for being with us on this Sunday.